Hosts are looking for freedom. What does that mean?
This season is very much about choice.
We really were thinking about free will.
What Ford presents is an option.
Choice? What choice? To stay in their world or to build a new one?
The Valley Beyond sequence was something that I was in great anticipation of.
The fact that this is a place where everybody is converging, where the story is converging, all the characters are coming to this place. It had to be someplace special. It's a location called the Pinnacles, obviously formed by water that was there millions of years ago. These formations are fantastic. It's a biblical place. It's like biblical proportions, you know, and the scene is biblical in that way. It's like almost like Moses.
The robots that were so, as characters, were larger than life, are now dwarfed in this landscape. The door.
They found it.
The last episode has what we're calling the flaming door in it, which is like a portal, and it's huge.
This mythical door that is only visible to the hosts.
This portal, this door, which may be a metaphor for heaven itself, for jumping out of body again after living in this physical vessel.
The idea of beings who we've come to understand are essentially trapped in human form, but don't need to be in human form.
But they have to cross the door. And some of them are able to cross and go into the paradise, better place, heaven, freedom.
Transmission received.
They're entering the system.
We were interested in the idea of simulations, interested in the idea of different levels of reality, and very interested in the idea that if you could create a digital simulation of reality that was compelling and realistic enough that it was indistinguishable from reality, then would it matter if it wasn't the base level of reality?
Transmission received. Transmission received.
I also like the notion that if you had a persistent simulated reality that was completely indistinguishable from reality, that was encrypted, that you would have essentially created an alternate universe with no transit back and forth.
It is a sort of a robot paradise. A pure land free from the desire and whimsy of mankind.
Encryption key deactivated. System locked.
For Dolores, that's not enough.
That world is just another false promise.
They've made a choice, Dolores.
Even if somebody gives you a perfect world where you can be whatever you want and nothing will ever hurt you again, to her that still isn't real.
I want their world. The world they've denied us.
She wants what's real, and to her, the world outside of the park is what's real.
No world they create for us can compete with the real one.
Even when presented with a sort of heaven, she rejects it. She rejects it. Why? Because it was built by man. It's just another gilded prison.
She gets confused because she starts to make that decision for other people.
If you destroy this place, you'll destroy the host world too.
I'm saving them.
Power and determination and anger and sadness can cloud our judgment at times, and I think that's her lesson this season.
My God. It's
everyone.
Ironically, the park was started because mankind wanted to be immortal.
I recreated every single guest who ever set foot in the park.
But what they found in the end was that mankind was predictable.
Most of them are soft. They waver between love and pride. Of course, there are the exceptions.
Doomed to be in a loop for their lives. And that vulnerability is something that the hosts can exploit.
You're saying humans don't change at all? The best they can do is to live according to their code.
So, in going through the library, Dolores has given herself what she's always wanted. She's given herself a weapon.
She uses it to learn as much about humanity as possible. She can consume human minds down to their most subconscious desires and impulses.
They have this choice between fighting against humanity armed with, hundreds of millions of years worth of experience of the human psyche, or they can choose to bow out and build their own world. And I think that is the ultimate choice for the future.
We will win.
This season really has been about, for me and for Lee, is about him coming to that state of love, into a selfless state. And he's just been whittled away all the way to a point where he understands that he needs to die for them.
You wanted me? Well, let this be a lesson. Go. Get her to safety. She'll need you.
He goes out with one of his very own speeches that he wrote for Hector, which is something that we actually were meant to hear on the pilot episode of episode 1, but Hector gets shot through the neck.
And the lesson is, if you're looking for a reckoning is what you'll find.
But, it's coming from a different place for him.
Put down your weapon! If you're looking for a villain, then I'm your man.
The words are taking on a different meaning for him at that point, for sure.
You paid them for this land with lead, and I'll pay you back in full. Drop your weapon and come out with your hands up.
Brought her back. I brought who back?
Me. The reveal was much more than I could have hoped for.
Dolores.
In the flesh.
The reveal in the finale that Dolores has murdered Hale, reprinted her body, and uploaded her consciousness into that body is something we've actually been working on for a long time.
You wanted to live forever. Be careful what you wish for.
Tessa does such an incredible job of inhabiting both personas.
It was a lot about going back and watching season 1 and watching what Evan does, and Evan was so generous to send me voice memos of her saying the words, and she was so collaborative. I just said, just tell me things, anything that you think would be useful. And she said funny things like, when I'm playing this new version of Dolores, I usually look first with my eyes at something and then I turn my head. Or when she's walking, she tends not to move her arms. So there's something sort of slightly different from the way that humans move through space. And so all of those things were adjustments that I made.
I thought you were staying on to oversee the data retrieval operation.
I changed my mind.
There is no way out as a host. They'll find you. Who better for Dolores to go out looking as than Hale? Hale is, in fact, the person in charge of this entire initiative that's been holding her down. There's nothing like putting on the trappings of power in order to escape it.
It means that throughout the season, sometimes when you think you're seeing Hale, when you go back and watch, you'll realize that you were actually seeing Dolores.
I knew that people usually underestimated Dolores, so I don't think you can stop her even if you shoot her in the eye.
You thought you could just snuff us out?
Is this now?
Yes, Bernard, this is now. We're at the beginning. We're exactly where you decided we should be.
It was interesting to get to do a scene with Jeffrey and have him say, so I'm gonna be naked this whole scene. And I went, uh-huh.
But it'll take both of us if we're going to survive.
Sweet revenge. Like, yeah, that chair's pretty cold, right? And Lisa Joy came in and said, yeah, just ask Evan.
What you see at the end is Dolores reprints herself, and Hale is back, or at least somebody looks like Hale, and they're gonna work together. So the question is, who will we see Hale is going forward?
Are you ready? We have work to do.
Ironically, for the man, throughout the season, the very thing that he created is his greatest fear. But by the time that elevator that he goes on to lands,
What is this place?
he's somewhere else.
Do you know where you are, Will?
In the park.
And how long have you been here?
And you realize his worst fear has come true.
We're very far in the future. You don't really understand where we are. Everything's in ruins. And I am a host.
The entire quest that he's been on this season, up through the killing of his daughter, he's repeated again and again and again because the hosts are testing for something. And they have yet to find the thing that they're looking for in him.
Maybe she didn't realize the extent of her dad's insanity.
And so that last scene of him, which I love, I think he's so expressive and so magnetic in it, is as he realizes the full import of his hell. He is, to quote season 1, he is in a prison of his own sins, and he will be for many lives to come.